Hello, and welcome to this episode of Batavia Spotlight, where we get to know more about community organizations and businesses here in Batavia, as well as in our local communities. I'm Ellen Huxtable, your host. So let's get started. Today, our first guest is Cynthia Wade, who is the founder and the managing director of Do Over Me, which is a very special kind of not-for-profit here in the Fox Valley. Thank you for joining us, Cynthia.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Ellen. I'm pleased to be here and pleased to have the opportunity to share DoOver.me's mission with the community.
Tell us a little bit about what DoOver.me does.
DoOver.me helps people, supports people who are in transition. And transition is kept deliberately vague because it can be any kind of a life transition where you say to yourself, oh my gosh, what just happened? And more importantly, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? So people that are divorced, people that have experienced a health scare, a death, people who are empty nesters, people who are in any kind of a career transition can get stuck. And all of a sudden they are overwhelmed by all the possibilities, and so they don't do anything. And psychologists will tell us that this is a phenomenon just like fighting and fleeing. Freezing is the new phenomenon of what happens when people can't make a decision about where to go next. DoOver.me steps in, tries to support those people, meet them where they're at, and help them to make some decisions and hold them accountable to the actions that they need to have to move forward.
So how did you get started in this? What's the background of DoOver.me?
Well, that's really interesting because it actually came out of my do-over. And what happened in the summer of 2013, I experienced a multitude of different kinds of crises, most people would call them, which were actually opportunities for me to take my life in a different direction. I didn't see it at the time. I had major surgery. I turned 60. I had my daughter's boyfriend move in with us unexpectedly. I lost my job totally unexpectedly. And then all of a sudden my daughter and her boyfriend moved out and I was an empty nester. And that all happened within about 4 months. And at that point in time, my life was unrecognizable. And I became very depressed and spent a lot of time on the couch with the vodka bottle and really was not happy about my life and where I was going. This was not where I thought I was going to be at 60 years old. And I realized that I had to do something very dramatically different if I wanted to change my life. I had to act. I had to do something different. So I got Bella, our DoOver.dog, and I joined an improv class, and I just started to move out into the world to try to do things differently. And as I did that, I started to feel better. I started to get a lot more confidence, and about 6 months after that, DoOver.me was born.
What kinds of assistance do people receive at DoOver.me?
It really is very individualized because, as I said earlier, we meet people where they're at. Depending upon what kind of transition you're in, that's going to determine what kind of hard and soft skills that you need in order to be able to move forward. So, for example, if you're a college student, we worked with a young man actually from in Aurora, who is a junior in college. He's going into his senior year in September. He needed to get an internship. That was part of his graduation requirement, and the college wasn't doing a lot to help him. So he came into DoOver.me. We helped him with his resume. We helped him with his LinkedIn profile. But more importantly, we helped him with his interviewing skills. We set up a mock interview, which we videotaped for him, coached him on his interview skills, helped him to try to identify companies where he might have a potential opportunity for an interview, for an internship, and he got it.
Great.
So he's working this summer at this internship. He'll go back to college to finish up his senior year in the fall, and then probably sometime around the holidays he'll come back to DoOver.me, and we'll take a look and revamp his resume and his LinkedIn profile and help him to start to move forward to actually get a job.
What kind of professionals are available through DoOver.me? What does your staff or your volunteer staff look like?
Well, right now the volunteers at DoOver.me are all in an administrative or operational capacity, but we do have several people in the community that we can refer people out to. So depending, again, on what you need, we have financial planners, we have psychologists and therapists that we can work with, we have people that do meditation and stress reduction exercises. Really, it just sort of depends, again, on what that person needs. But there's a multitude of different professionals within the Fox Valley that have come forward to volunteer their skills and talents to support the people at DoOver.me.
So act very much as a clearinghouse then for a number of different kinds of professional support that people might need.
Exactly, because as I said, everybody's different and what you're going to need is going to be different. And so we realize we can't be everything to everybody. What we're trying to be is, an impetus to spur them on, to ask the right questions, to ask the tough questions, to get them to dig a little bit deeper, to figure out where they want to go and then how they're going to get there and what they need in order to make that happen. As a result of that, you've got to have a lot of different people behind you in order to be able to refer them to you when you need them to.
And how is DoOver.me funded, or how do people pay for your services?
DoOver.me is a 501c3 not-for-profit. The people that come to DoOver.me are requested to pay a registration fee, and then all the services that they receive through DoOver.me are either free or they're paid for on a sliding scale based on the total gross income of the household and the number of people that are in the household. So an average client pays about a 50% fee of most of the services. The balance of our funding comes from donations, fundraising efforts, and hopefully grants, because we're just going into our third fiscal year, and most of the grants that we've applied to we've not been successful in getting them because we're not quite old enough yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, what kinds of people would be the best kind of people to look for you?
We tend to focus on two different age groups. We tend to focus on college students who are trying to figure out what they want to do and get the tools that they need, because we're finding that some of the universities don't do as good a job as others in helping them really prepare for the real world. And then older people like 50, 55 and over who are in a situation either through their own choosing or not where they have to reinvent themselves. They have to reimagine their lives. And it's amazing how many people just kind of fall into their life without really even making a conscious choice about identifying what their individual gifts are and then figuring out how to match them up with what they want to do in their life.
So if people need to contact you, what is your contact information so people can find you?
Well, we have a very robust website, which you can find at www.do-over.me. You can always call us 630-402-0429 or stop by our offices on the east side of Geneva at 1141 Commerce Drive. Anyway, we're happy to see you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Cynthia.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity, Ellen.
Thank you. And now we'll take a brief time out to hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be back in a moment.